Update. Am I the a-hole for threatening to take legal action against my ex-wife's stepdaughter if she doesn't pay for the gift she broke? Original post. I, male 38, have been separated from my ex-wife for almost 14 years. She's married now and has 2 stepdaughters, and this one involved the older one, Anna, 17 I think. Our older daughter, Diane, female 16, is really into calligraphy. My parents gave her a Japanese calligraphy brush as a gift for having a great school year. We came back from a trip and left them with her mother. I was just getting home when my youngest called me to return. Once there, they were having an argument and my ex-wife and her wife were trying to mediate. Diane said that Anna stole her brush and broke it. Anna says she took it with permission from Diane, which is a lie, and we checked, and she accepted breaking it, but replaced it with another one, a cheap one. My ex-wife and her wife claimed that it was not a big deal and Anna replaced it. I disagree, and told them that either Anna or them have to order a new one or give them money for us to do it. They were willing to do it, until Diane told them how much it would cost, $3,000. That's when they flipped the lid and said why I'm buying something that expensive. I told them it's none of their business or the point. Besides, it was a gift from my parents, not mine. They refused and said they can't do it without taking a hit in their finances. I told them that I don't care, and they need to pay for it or I would take legal action against Anna since she admitted to taking it and breaking it. I told them to be quick because the brushes are limited. Our daughters decided to come with me and took their important things with them. Now my ex-wife, her parents and her wife are blasting my phone saying I would ruin Anna's future, and that I'm putting our daughters against them and ruining their relationship. We've been co-parenting really well, but I don't know. I think I'm being reasonable. She's not a kid anymore. Now for the top comments before reading the update. They wouldn't be shocked if it was a high-end tablet, would they? Just because they don't value the value of the item doesn't mean it doesn't have a value. Good luck getting the value back. Not stay whole. She didn't lend her the brush. Anna said that but isn't true. It's funny how she lies about asking/borrowing it, as if that will undo all the mess she got herself into. The pen could be worth $1. It could be worth $1 million. She's gonna have to suck it up and pay for her mistake regardless. If I steal a car off the Enterprise lot and total it, I'm liable for the damages, not to mention the consequences of any crimes I committed in obtaining the car. If I legally rent the car and total it, then guess what? I'm still liable for the damages. Not stay home. Anna is 17, not 7, almost an adult. She's old enough to know that she doesn't take something that doesn't belong to her. By the way, I believe a limited edition brush can cost $3,000. Like we see Balenciaga charging $1,800 for a trash bag, lol. Doesn't matter what the cost is. Legally, a person is responsible for replacement cost. If it costs $18,000 to replace a trash bag, and people have a problem with that, then they shouldn't mess with $18,000 trash bags. Kinda simple. And now for the update. I never thought this would get so much attention. I'm still going through the comments, but I'm going to clarify a few points and give you an update. Why Diane brought the brush to her mother's. She has a neighbor friend whose hobby is painting. Diane's friend has a nice brush collection, and she took it to show it to her. Why did she leave the brush at her mother's? She stays a week with her mother. She has left other valuable things, either sentimental or monetary, and nothing has happened. Until now. Why I allowed her to move it around? It has to do with how my parents raised me. You are the one in charge of your stuff, no one else. You're the one who puts the value in them. That's why I have always let my daughters do as they want with their things, the same way my parents taught my siblings and I. She understands this kind of brush is not something to just play with. She agrees that she was careless as she wasn't planning to use it, but to start her own collection, the same way her friend and I do. I can't blame her though. She was comfortable with them and there was no precedent. The relationship with her step-family. They're not close but they're civil. They never clicked, but they agreed to respect each other and their things. How we find out Anna lied? Simple. When she said she got permission via text, I asked her to show us and my ex and her mother asked for her phone. She could have lied but folded. She said she took it and broke it but didn't say why. The price. My ex knew the price but not her wife. Both knew it was a gift from my parents. My ex-wife decided to play dumb because she didn't tell her wife about the price. For the doubters, I understand because not many are interested in handwriting or calligraphy. Brushes and pens can cost hundreds or even thousands because they are made with limited or rare materials by a craftsman with decades of experience. It is an art itself. You can Google it if you can/want. The brush. I need to talk to my parents if they still have the receipt, so I can contact the manufacturers and see what can be done. My hopes are slim to none. To say the brush is broken is to put it mildly. It has basically to be remade. Now for what transpired yesterday. We returned home and we talked after they calmed down. I asked them if I was missing something or if something changed, etc. They said everything was pretty much the same, but Diane and Lily said they might know the reason why Anna did it. During the week they stayed with her mother. Anna said to all of them that her boyfriend's birthday was coming up, and she wanted to gift him something special. She asked my youngest, let's call her Lily, if she could play the guitar while she sang a song to him, and Lily refused. Lily says that Anna took it well and didn't make a big deal. Then 2 days before I picked them up, Anna asked Diane if she could make a big poster, and Diane refused. But unlike Lily, she offered her to do something small. Diane says that Anna declined her offer and didn't make a big deal. Why they refused? The boyfriend's birthday was when they were going to be on a trip with me, last week, and both told Anna about it. I asked them if they knew about the finances of her mother. They said she's still working, and also her wife, so definitely not struggling. That's why both of them are mad at her mother because she or her wife could have paid for the brush. They don't understand why she acted like that. Knowing this, I asked her what she wanted to do. She listened to my threat and I told her I mean it. I was going to buy the brush and force them to pay me back. She asked me to wait and see what they do in the next days. Now for what happened today. I received 2 calls early in the morning, one from ex-wife and the other from Anna's father asking to meet. The father came first. He said his youngest daughter called him and told him what happened. Him and I talked for a little bit, and by the looks of it, there are bigger issues. The man apologized to Diane for Anna's behavior and paid for the brush. The rest came after. Anna apologized first and said why she did it. She took the brush instead of another out of revenge. She tried to use it to do the poster for her boyfriend, and because she's not as good as her, she destroyed it in a fit of rage. Once calm, she saw her mistake and looked for another one online. She saw how much it cost and decided to buy a cheap one. She never told anyone what she did until Diane returned. Anna's mother apologized to Diane and also to Lily. They both left after that. My wife remained. She apologized to Diane and Lily and said she acted the way she did because this could kill the little to none relationship they have as sisters. But the result was worse and she regrets it. Diane and Lily told her that everything could be fine if they paid for the brush and apologized right then and there. She could have ended with 1 upset daughter. She has now 3. They said that now they don't feel secure there and have no plans to return. My ex-wife said she was going to do anything to solve it and proposed family therapy again, but both of them refused. They said that they could meet somewhere else, but at least not for now. They left us alone. We talked mostly about logistics and a few things I wanted to confirm. Lastly, I talked with my daughters again and both still are pretty upset. The relationship with her mother took a major hit and they're not happy with how it was resolved, but neither do I. We're going to see my parents in the upcoming days. Diane wants to talk with them about the money before buying another brush. Thank you for taking your time. I try to cover as much as I could, but I will try to answer if you have questions. She could have ended with 1 upset daughter and now she has 3. Harsh, but true. Taking others' stuff and breaking it and buying a cheap one to replace it. Wow, parents tries to correct mistakes. But Opie's ex-wife was a terrible mother. You are not entitled to others' stuffs. To be fairly fair, if my son made a $3,000 oopsie, I'd be looking for financial compromise myself. Even to someone well-off, that's a freaking huge chunk of money. That's my entire savings. She said she acted the way she did because this could end the little to none relationship they have as sisters. Yes, because the one thing everyone knows about siblings/step-siblings is that showing obvious favoritism to one of them by not punishing them for breaking another one's extremely expensive possessions is guaranteed to make everyone get along better. Ex-wife can't even give an honest apology. She acted the way she did because she chose her wife and stepdaughter over her own daughter. It had nothing to do with preserving their sisterly bond. It was all about preserving her own bond with a new wife. Yep, I'm thinking this is not the first incident. The way it feels is that this was the straw that broke the camel's back for the 2 daughters. I don't care if it's a $20 brush. You don't mess with someone else's brushes. I'm not into calligraphy. I'm not even a real painter. I paint Warhammer miniatures, which is basically 3D coloring. But I don't really let anyone else use my brushes, and I wouldn't feel comfortable using anyone else's. The ex-wife definitely messed up, but a 17-year-old should know better. It is so easy to ruin a brush even without having a fit of rage. Whether it's getting pains in the ferrule or just improperly cleaning. The higher the quality of the brush, the more you have to take care of it. Next story. Am I the a-hole for calling my brother an inconsiderate, insecure, pompous prick? My brother and I are not very close. I can tolerate him if need be, but I think he struggles in many social situations. He can't seem to read basic social cues and makes many inappropriate comments and jokes. He has strong opinions about everything, jumps to unreasonable conclusions, and never lets things go. My wife and his wife have been friends for years. My wife doesn't like my brother much, but she's very polite and courteous towards him for the sake of my sister-in-law. My wife and I lost our 3-year-old son about a year ago. His death was sudden, and there is not a day that goes by where I don't grieve him. There will never come a day, hour, minute, or second that I'll stop loving or thinking about my son. In my family, talking about a dead child makes people uncomfortable and is almost treated as taboo. I'm not too fond of this culture, and I have been candid about going to therapy, counseling sessions, support groups, etc. My wife and I started going to marriage therapy after the loss of our son. My family believes that we are going to couples counseling because our marriage is failing or my wife isn't satisfying me enough. This could not be further from the truth, and I think it's a bit disgusting and ridiculous. My sister-in-law invited my wife and I for a nice dinner at their place to celebrate my wife's birthday. Most of my family would be there, and she promised us no drama and or unnecessary comments. We got there and it was nice at first. Everyone was being respectful and I was having fun. Near the end, a few people gave my wife small gifts. We were planning to open them at home and react privately, but my brother was very adamant about seeing my wife's reaction to his gift. He was so sure that he had the best gift and wanted my wife to open his gift in front of everyone. Nothing could have prepared me for his present. He gave her a baby's romper meant for a newborn boy and an expensive set of lingerie. I was so shocked. When she looked at him, he laughed and said it was to motivate her to bring a spark back into the marriage. Everyone was speechless, until my wife politely thanked everyone for coming and then left, leaving my brother's gift. I told my brother that the gift was wrong and incredibly inappropriate. He started to get defensive and very aggressive, so in anger, I called him an inconsiderate, insecure, pompous prick. My sister-in-law, as well as few other family members, told me that even if the gift was in bad taste, I shouldn't have called him names and provoked him. I may be the a-hole for the unnecessary name-calling. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. The names you called your brother were the perfect description of his personality. Cut off any personal contact with him until he apologizes to your wife. I am truly sorry for your loss. For my own peace of mind, I won't be speaking to him for a long time. I think that is the best choice. And don't be afraid to do the same to other family members who enable his horrible behavior. You and your wife have my sympathy. What you're going through is beyond awful, and I hope the future brings some peace and comfort for you both. What you said to your brother was absolutely correct. Strange that he can do as he wishes, and that's fine. But you're reacting as provoking him? Did he not provoke you and your wife with the cruel, tasteless jokes of his gifts? Either one alone would be foul and wildly inappropriate, but together, the two gifts are beyond pale. I might be choosy about spending time with him at all in the future, especially if your wife is there if I were you. Not the a-hole, but your brother and anyone who defends his disgusting behavior definitely are. One note, it sounds from the way that you describe him that your brother could be neurodivergent. That's no freaking excuse. Plenty of people struggle with social cues, but they still have the sense to learn from experience how to not hurt people. What he did was hurtful, not funny or clever or cool. Agree that is probably on the spectrum, but that was just cruel. Not the a-hole. You were incredibly tame in your response. I would have read him to filth, drag queen style. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for buying my granddaughter more expensive gifts than my grandson? I have many grandchildren, but this is about the oldest ones. Jake 18 and Maya 18. They're cousins, not siblings. 18th birthdays are very important in our family. So for Jake's 18th birthday, I told him I will buy him whatever he wants. As long as it's reasonable, of course. He told me he needs a new phone, so I bought one for him which costed me around $1,000. I encouraged him to choose other gifts as well, but he said it's enough. For Maya's 18th birthday, I did the same thing, and told her to choose whatever she wants. She gave me a list of the things that she wanted and it costed me about $7,000. I was a bit unsure whether I should buy them or not, but decided that it would be unfair if I don't buy it because Jake had the same offer and he chose not to get anything else. Jake's father, my son, was very angry at Maya's birthday. He said I'm showing favoritism. I tried to explain to him that I'm not because Jake had the same offer. His argument was that I raised Maya. Her parents worked a lot and I was basically her babysitter, while I didn't have as much contact with Jake. His mom was a stay-at-home mom. So naturally, Maya would be closer to me and it would be easier for her to ask me for things. You're the a-hole. While you gave them a choice, which is nice, you should have decided that each one of them would get an equal value of gifts. If you spent $1,000 on one, that should have been a cap for the other. No one told you you had to buy all the gifts on Maya's list. You made that choice. Or do what my grandma does and give the cash value to even it out. Sure. I mean, whatever they would want to do is up to them. Ultimately, it should be equal. You're the a-hole for not capping the offer. I mean, really, who asks for $7,000 worth of birthday items and actually gets them? When I tell my two kids to pick stuff, one will be polite and the other will shoot for the moon. If the ambitious one gets everything she asks for, the polite one will get upset because she didn't realize asking for so much was even an option. It's not the polite one's fault, and she's not wrong for being upset. As a parent, I either have to set a limit and treat them equally, or let the ambitious one pick first so the polite one realizes the upper limit is higher than she thought. I would never want the polite kid to feel shortchanged because she didn't realize she could ask for more.
My sister ruined my relationship, now wants help. My sister, 25 female, and I, 21 female, have been on bad terms because she did something so heinous that I can't forgive her, even though we're blood relatives. My ex-boyfriend, 23 male, cheated on me with my sister. I've accepted that I might not have been good enough for him and that he wanted someone else besides me. When my sister and I were younger, we had a close bond, but as we grew older, jealousy became a big issue. If I had something, she wanted it, and if she didn't get it, she would go out of her way to get it. She's 8 months pregnant with my ex-boyfriend's child. When I found out she was pregnant, I vomited, because what sister would do such things to her sister? I've blocked her and everything, but my family wants me to contact her. Her baby's father is nowhere to be found and hasn't been seen since the 3rd trimester. And I know this because my mother likes to gossip a lot and lets things slip out without knowing. I told her I didn't want to hear anything about my sister or my ex-boyfriend, but she insisted on me hearing everything. My mother once told me that my sister and her baby's father got into an argument because he was talking to other girls, and he put his hands on her and pushed her down the steps, causing her 3 fractured bones. But she still went back, and I don't know why, but she wanted him so she has him. He never put his hands on me, so I'm not sure where he got it. He was never violent with me, so I don't know how it all became. But this was the start of their relationship, and I never got into it because I didn't care because she wanted him and they wanted each other, and I stayed distant. There was a time when she wanted to come over to my house after they had an argument, but I told her to not call me ever again. Then my mom called me the other day and said that my sister needs a place to stay because she can't pay her bills and will be evicted in 30 days for failing to pay rent. She doesn't have baby food, clothes, or anything for the baby, and she doesn't have any money. That struck me as odd, because you have plenty of time to shop for the baby. I suppose her baby daddy paid for it until he left? My mother and I argued, because I was not going to let her into my house, and told her she could stay at hers. But she said we were sisters, and needed to stick together. I can't tell you how angry I was when she said that. I hung up on my mother because I couldn't believe what she was saying. So when I was depressed and suffering from mental health issues as a result of my boyfriend's cheating, did anyone come to my aid? No. Instead, they consoled my sister. What irritated me even more was that my mother gave my sister my new phone number, and I kept getting messages, calls, and voicemails from her asking for my assistance. I texted her one thing and told her she should go find her baby daddy instead of bothering me to help her when she never cared about me in the first place. She wasn't happy about the text, but I didn't care. She went on about how I'm not a real sister and how she'll be poor. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Well, she is not a real sister since she decided it is a good idea to sleep with your boyfriend. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. It's not your problem she has no money else. It's her fault. Her stupid decisions and actions, not yours. Block her. Don't let her in. This is not your problem. Not the a-hole. Maybe also block your mother. My sister just became a single mom, and all of a sudden, it's important to support family according to my mother. No. They had 10 years to fix their act. I'm not breaking no contact because she needs money and surrogate daddy. Not the a-hole. She should consider placing the child for adoption if she is having that much difficulty. You're not accountable for it. Correct. But if we are being honest, the sister bond was broken the moment the sister betrayed Opie. If Opie's mom is so concerned about her poor pregnant mistress of a daughter, then she needs to open her own front door instead of her gaslighting mouth and welcome her child and soon-to-be grandchild into her home with open arms. 'Cause nope. Change your phone number again and don't give it to your mom. If you need to call your mom, you can create a Google Voice number to call her from so she doesn't have your direct number. Next story. Am I the a-hole for keeping the money my parents gave me to travel to see them because my brother was there? My brother was abusive to me growing up, in every way you are imagining. My parents covered for him and sent me away to live with family so they could take care of him rather than sending him to jail. I have not seen them or spoken to them in 10 years. That's the way I like it. My father is taken ill and he wanted to make amends. He wanted me to come see him. I said no. I did not have the time or money to take time away from my job. But my parents offered to pay for my trip and to make up for the money I will miss out on since I have no PTO. So I agreed, on one condition, that I did not want to see my brother at all. If he was there, I was leaving. He was there. I left. I had already made arrangements with a friend in that city just in case. It is a friend from university whom my parents don't know. I also blocked them on my phone. I spent the week enjoying my hometown and seeing friends and family, and then went back home. My parents thought the best way to handle it was to call me out on social media for taking their money to come see my dying father, then spending the time having fun. I did not see any of it since I was enjoying my life. But when I got to the airport, I did check my Facebook, and there were the posts and comments from their friends and family who did not know the story. So I replied that I had indeed accepted their money to come see my father, and the only requirement I had was that my piece of trash brother not be anywhere near me. I explained why I did not want him near me. I explained why he should be in jail. I explained that I was not involved in their lives because they got rid of me to defend him. This has started a massive fight with my parents and their friends and relatives. Mostly about them not telling people all the particulars about my brother and allowing him near children. And people saying that I should not air dirty laundry and that my father was dying and I was adding to his stress. I kept the money because I needed it, and I went like I agreed. Not the a-hole. I agreed on one condition. I did not want to see my brother at all. If he was there, I was leaving. This is called a healthy boundary. Bravo for setting it correctly and enforcing consequences when the boundary was broken. You're already no contact with them. Who cares what they say in social media? Plus, people are telling Opie not to air dirty laundry when the parents did it first. Funny how it's okay in one instance but not in Opie's. I agree. Opie should clearly state to those people that she didn't air the dirty laundry and the trauma of 10 plus years ago until her parents used Facebook to try to shame her and she was forced to defend herself. Call out every victim shamer and then move on. Opie sounds amazing. Not the a-hole. You gave them one condition and your father, 1, was the one who wanted to make amends. 2, didn't keep his part of the promise, so he cannot cry about the money. 3, he tried to expose you on social media. Not your problem he gets caught lying about what really happened since they took the initiative to make it public. 4, Funny wasn't thinking of being stressed or dying while trying to call you out on Facebook. To be fair, I'm pretty sure it was my mom posting. My father isn't big on social media, but she knew the deal. Still, she posted about a private situation to make you look bad, which took the private off the whole thing and could have an impact on your father's health as well if it keeps escalating into a live argument without social media. Consequences. Next story. Am I the a-hole for leaving my stepdaughter's birthday party after my husband threw out the cake I made for her? I have been married to my husband Jeff for a year now. He has a daughter at 12 with his deceased wife. When I first met Jeff, it was obvious that he was struggling as a single parent. For my stepdaughter's birthday, he'd usually get a cake from the bakery. This has been the case since her mom passed away. I thought I'd bake her a birthday cake for her 12th birthday that was last week, as a gesture to show some motherly love and support. Jeff agreed, and he told me what his daughter's favorite flavors are and what she likes and so on. I baked the cake in the flavor she likes and the icing she likes. But one thing was missing, and that is the blueberries. And I couldn't include them because I went to the nearest store and they didn't have them. I was running out of time and couldn't get them, so I ended up just leaving the cake as it, thinking it wouldn't be a big deal. The party started, and Jeff was busy taking care of everything else. He then came into the kitchen and asked to see the cake before bringing it out. I showed it to him, and he got so angry when he saw that there were no blueberries on top. He went on and on about how I didn't fully commit to making the cake, and that he'd trusted me to take care of it, and just basically saying that he should have just ordered one from the bakery. We got into an argument, and he ended up taking it and throwing it in a trash can. I was stunned as he said, "You know what? Forget it. I'll get one from the bakery." I blew up and screamed at him. He told me to stop, but I went upstairs, got dressed, and left. He tried getting me to stay, but I refused and went to my parents. He later called and then texted about how I overreacted and hurt him and my stepdaughter by leaving. Also said that I created this situation by not properly making the birthday cake just because I didn't put blueberries on top. I refused to respond, but my parents say he was justified, since he must have felt pressured from the stress of making his daughter happy on her birthday. He keeps trying to speak to me, but I don't respond. Am I the a-hole? Did I overreact? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You went out of your way to research what kind of cake your stepdaughter would want, put in the effort to bake a cake after agreeing with the dad on you baking the cake, and baked a lovely birthday cake. It was just missing one kind of deco because you couldn't source it in time. And it went nuclear and threw out your cake? Yeah, I wouldn't have stayed around after that either. It is a childish, vindictive, aggressive, and hurtful way to deal with what he saw as a less than perfect situation. He seems extremely overprotective of his daughter. She's 12 and would probably love this cake even if it didn't have blueberries. Even if she had noticed and said something, she could have been told the shop ran out, and at her age, she should be able to understand that and learn to deal with that kind of disappointment. Are you pushed aside in other parenting situations too? How is your relationship with your stepdaughter? It's only been a year and he already treats you like this? I'd reconsider this marriage. OP is not the a-hole, but also blueberries aren't in season, at least in the US. Her husband is aware of what month or season it is, since it's his daughter's birthday, and shouldn't have faulted her for the store not having fresh produce out of season. Not the a-hole. He threw away a homemade cake because there were no blueberries on it. And you think you overreacted? Has he had explosive reactions like this in the past? Because that's kind of scary. If he reacts this way over missing blueberries, what happens when something really goes wrong? OP this. I get it's his daughter's birthday, but he threw away the cake. And then tries to get you to stay, to have you there to blame, and says you overreacted? I'm sorry, this guy has some serious control and anger issues he needs to work through. You're not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. 1. No cake in the history of cakes has been ruined by not having blueberries. 2. I've been around people who would get this anal about blueberries. It's never about the berries, it's about control. 3. Huge red flag. Watch out for how easily he comes unhinged about other little things. If it's always your fault, look up the characteristics of narcissist and see if he fits that bill. Here is the narcissist's credo. That didn't happen. And if it did, it wasn't that bad. And if it was, that's not a big deal. And if it is, that's not my fault. And if it was, I didn't mean it. And if I did, you deserved it. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my late father's wife I don't owe it to her to lie? My dad passed away recently. We had not spoken for more than 4 years. I, 22 male, was his only surviving kid from his first marriage. My mom and 2 siblings died in a car wreck when I was 9. My dad and I were in a car behind them, so he saw it happen but were not directly involved. After my mom and siblings died, my dad focused on moving on and finding a new wife. I met Trish 2 months later. They got married after 6 months together. Trish was a single mom of 2 kids and their dads were not around. So my dad decided he was going to step up and be their dad. He told me I owe it to them to be the best big brother and to learn from my brother and sister who had been amazing older siblings. I said no. I told him I did not agree to being anyone else's sibling and I would only ever have 2 siblings. He always said I would regret it and he told me he hated me. He had 3 more kids with Trish and I never tried to bond with them either. When I was 15, Dad and I had a fight that was sort of us done for good. He read my sister's diary on what would have been her 18th birthday, and he didn't like what he read about her friend having half-siblings and he took it out on me. After that, it was agreed I should live with my aunt and uncle. But Dad would still call sometimes, asking me to regret my lack of interest. Trish is the one who told me he died. She sent me the obituary via social media. I did not go to the funeral, but I did see her at my uncle's house. I left once they arrived because I was only there for my uncle. She tracked me down a couple of weeks later and told me her kids were asking about me, and she said I needed to speak to them and to try and be their older brother. I refused to do it. She told me I need to tell them I regret my actions and miss them and dad, and want to be part of the family, and that I owe her that much after making life harder when I left, and leaving her with young kids who wanted to know why their brother wasn't around. I told her I don't owe it to her to lie and say something I don't mean. I also told her to leave me alone. She yelled, and I walked away from her. She then contacted me on social media again, telling me I should be ashamed for treating my dad's widow that way, and that I do owe her. I blocked her, but she attempted to reach out via my uncle then. She's clearly very angry. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole for not bonding or following her wish to try again, but please get the therapy. Your dad apparently neglected to get you back when your family died, so you can process that loss. The adults in your life really failed you back then. I started going to therapy last year. My therapist was shocked. It was my first time after hearing about the incident. Geez, the car accident alone would have been enough for almost anyone to sign their kid up for therapy. Never mind the garbage that followed. You would think, but no. Not the a-hole. Your dad did you a massive disservice by finding a replacement family so soon. This did not allow you any time to grieve properly. Your feelings, or lack thereof, are no one's concern but your own. She most likely wants you to be their older brother, so you can babysit them all the time. Yep, she doesn't care about OP or his relationship with her kids. She just wants babysitting, and probably will start asking for monetary help. She and OP's dad treated OP terribly. Not the a-hole. Your father chose to put himself over you when your mother and siblings tragically died. Rather than wait an appropriate amount of time and go through the pain of it all with you, he instead sought comfort elsewhere. He made it clear you weren't ready for that. He forced something uncomfortable on you and then emotionally abused you. It then sounds like he physically or at least emotionally mistreated you again due to the content of your deceased sister's diary. You owe Trish and her children nothing whatsoever. Those were her choices that she has to live with. They're strangers to you. It sounds like she and your father have gaslit these kids into believing they have some magical big brother out there, which is cruel of Trish and your father to do when they knew your feelings. But in no way should make you any more willing to become part of something you are, as I said before, a stranger to. It was emotional. He was yelling at me asking how he was supposed to tell his other kids about my siblings, when he had it in black and white that my sister saw half-siblings as lesser generally, and that she thought it's dumb to think you should love them. Again, all this was written about her best friend, and how my sister felt about what her best friend was going through. My dad said things to me after reading her diary that I never forgot, and he's dead now, and it's something I will never truly forgive him for. I'm learning to let it go, but it will always be something that made my already poor perception of him way worse. Am I the a-hole for yelling at my pregnant sister-in-law and telling my husband to choose me or her? Original post. See, I know the title sounds wrong, but please hear me out. I'm currently typing this all up while my husband's entire family is sitting downstairs. So I, 29 female, have been married to my husband for 8 years. About 2 months ago, I had my third miscarriage at 31 weeks. I won't be talking about it because it makes me feel so depressed, but you'll need to remember this. About 4 months ago, my sister-in-law, 20, came crying at our doorstep, telling us she's pregnant and her boyfriend didn't want anything to do with the pregnancy and had nowhere to go. My husband and I openly took her in, welcomed her into our home with open arms. For the first few weeks, it was really hard for her, understandably. I sat with her for hours, holding her when she cried, binging our favorite TV shows, eating so much ice cream we quite literally fell into a coma. It was really bonding for us, or so I thought. Here's where it starts going downhill. I take pride in my neat, clean home. My sister-in-law, on the other hand, did not. She would leave her clothes all around the house, leave her dirty dishes wherever, even went as far as leaving her toys on our living room table. I tried to talk to her directly before I talked to my husband, and she immediately started crying and told me she'd try to be cleaner. I hugged her, told her it was okay, but this is a clear boundary for me. She told me it won't happen again. But it only got worse. She told me I was expected to do her laundry, dishes, and clean her room daily because she's the pregnant one. Well, I do understand how hard it is being pregnant. I just couldn't allow feeling like a maid in my own home. Disclaimer, I bought this house, not my husband. It was all me. not to mention my recent loss of my child. So I told my husband, but what he told me shocked me. His exact words were, "Honey, she's going through a lot right now. We really should be helping her out. Plus, it might make you feel better to take care of someone who's pregnant." I was mad to say the least. Make me feel better? She's going through a lot? We need to help her. Letting her stay with us wasn't enough? While I don't want to invalidate her pain, my husband and I were also going through our own problems. Anyways, we moved on. I did my best to maintain work and household chores. My husband works 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., so he isn't around to help much. I work full-time from home, so it's been super stressful. When I even try to ask for help from my sister-in-law, she always makes an excuse, even if she's just watching TV. The one thing that pushed me over the edge was, I went out to buy my one food that I have actually enjoyed eating after my miscarriage. I wrote my name on it and directly asked my sister-in-law to not eat it. Well, I went to go to my fridge to get it, and you'll never guess. She freaking ate it. Now you may think it's just food. I buy all the groceries, basically pay all the bills. I don't mind people having some of my food, but the one thing I ask to not be touched gets touched. So I told my husband, and of course, he rubbed it in my face that she's pregnant, that I need to be less selfish, and life is about sacrifices. I was so upset. I told him I felt like him and her were the horrible roommates people talk about on Reddit. He didn't take that well, lol. Which leads us to my title. My sister-in-law planned a random baby shower party thing at my house. I personally didn't know if I could even be home when this was happening. I felt so hurt that she wouldn't talk to me knowing everything that has happened, and that she would just invite random strangers into another person's home before asking. My husband urged me to go, told me it would permanently affect mine and her relationship. So I told him I'd go. About halfway through the party, my husband and sister-in-law announced that they wanted to show the nursery to everyone. I was confused. Nursery? She was staying that long? What room did she turn into a nursery? They told everyone to head upstairs, and that's when it hit me. They were talking about my nursery for my baby I had just lost. A wave of emotions hit me when I saw everyone in my baby's nursery, telling her what a good job they did setting it up. My setup for my baby that my body failed to give me. I just lost it. I started sobbing, then that sadness turned into pure rage. I started yelling at my sister-in-law, telling her she's the foulest human for putting me through everything she has for the last few months, making me feel like I was a maid or an object for her convenience. Through choked-up tears, I turned to my husband whose jaw was on the floor. I turned my head to see his entire family just staring at me, and I lost it again. Yelling, I looked at my sister-in-law telling her how dare she use my nursery for my baby. How dare she think she has the right? What she told me made me fall to my knees sobbing. It's not my fault you couldn't produce a child. Why let this go to waste? You're so selfish. My husband tried to pick me up off the floor, but I yelled again. Standing to my knees, which were now shaking, I told him, "Pick." A dumbfounded look on his face. I yelled again, "Pick, me or her." He couldn't even muster up anything to say. I just looked at him, pure betrayal. I pushed past a crowd of family and ran straight up here to type this out. Even if no one sees this, at least it's helped me to let these emotions out. Now's the point where I ask, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. I'm so sorry for what you've been through. It's maybe time to reconsider your marriage. Your husband disrespected you and didn't take in consideration your feelings in your home. Tell your sister-in-law to take her belongings and get out of the house immediately. It's unacceptable behavior. You deserve respect. And you're not a maid. You're a person with feelings, with traumas. You need to heal. And for that, you need her out. And maybe your husband for a moment. The time to think about what you want for your future. You must be broken, and it's so understandable. Please seek for help and therapy. I wish you best for the future. I feel like husband and sister are not done yet. Something tells me that there's another thing coming, even bigger than the nursery. Do you think they're going to ask for her to stay and co-parent? Not the a-hole. Ask her to leave ASAP. She obviously has other family. They can have her. If your husband doesn't like it, he can go too. If he stays, you need couples counseling as he doesn't seem to consider you a priority, and that needs to change. You didn't have a miscarriage at 31 weeks. You had a stillbirth. And that's very hard to take. That's what I was thinking. 31 weeks is premature, but definitely not just a miscarriage. I've got family members who all suffered multiple miscarriages, most before 14 weeks, and that was still highly traumatic. At 31 weeks, Opie birthed a child. Another family member of mine had a child born at 29 weeks, and you'd better believe that was a baby. Had to spend about 6 weeks in the NICU and was quite tiny, but is now thankfully nearly 2 and thriving. The level of trauma the husband and sister-in-law put Opie through is beyond disgusting. Clearly, the husband is in serious denial over the loss of his child too, or he's a sociopath. The fathers of all the miscarried children I knew grieved the loss just as much as their wives. They both wanted the children that didn't survive, and were both broken by it. You know, come to think of it, I'm starting to wonder if the reason Opie's husband is getting so defensive over his sister is because he sees this as a chance to replace the baby they lost. I'm not excusing him because he's allowing his sister to treat his wife horribly, but it feels like a really unhealthy coping mechanism. My thoughts exactly, and I was looking for someone to say it. He's going to take this baby as if he's the dad, keep sister in the house forever, and Opie can be the third wheel to clean up after the kid. Tell them both to GTFO, not the a-hole. Yes, not the a-hole. I think that was quite possibly the meanest, most hurtful, disrespectful thing I've seen on here yet. The betrayal of those words your sister-in-law said to you while standing in your nursery are awful, vile, and disgusting. I'm so sorry, Opie, for all that you've been through. Kick her butt out ASAP. And let your husband know if he ever treats you like that again, he's out the door right behind her. That's of course if you don't kick him out ASAP too, which you'd be right to do. Now for the update. I'm not quite sure if this is the proper way to do an update, but hopefully everyone can see it. First, I just want to address a few comments. I know I had stillborn. The only reason I say miscarriage is because that is what my obstetrician told me was happening. Here's the update everyone's been asking for. Buckle up, it's a long one. After posting my story on here, I sat in my bed wiping my tears and telling myself I will not take this disrespect. I walked downstairs, shutting my nursery door on the way. I was greeted with everyone comforting my sister-in-law. I kindly asked everyone besides my sister-in-law and husband to respectfully get the heck out of my house. After all the dirty looks and shaming, they left, and it was just my husband, sister-in-law, and myself. They sat themselves on a couch, not saying anything. I sat with them. The silence felt like forever. None of us had anything to say. I knew I had to start the conversation. I looked at my husband and said, "Did you decide?" He looked at me just staring. I asked again in a firm tone this time. He ended up mumbling some sort of insult, and I couldn't really make out what he said. Something with witchy. I stood up and told them both to get out. Then they wanted to talk, telling me this is all a misunderstanding, they're sorry, blah blah blah. I grabbed a backpack from my shoe closet and told them to pack their things. My sister-in-law told me I couldn't just make her leave, and I was a horrible person. I laughed in her face and told her this is my house, and I can do whatever I wanted. My husband stood next to me and told her it was only for a little while. I turned to him and said, "Oh, you too, get out." He got all mad and told me we were a married couple, and that this isn't how marriage works. I told him no, it is not. Marriage is where two people support each other and not treat their wife like crap. They both ended up leaving after many insults towards me. Oh, but wait, it's not over. This morning as I was getting ready for a Zoom meeting with a few other coworkers, my husband showed up. I let him in, telling him to get whatever he needed and to go because I had to work. He started apologizing and telling me he wants to make it right. I told him I just need time away from him. Then he threw in my face, "Well, it's not my fault you lost our children. Maybe this would have never happened." My sister was right. You are selfish. I have never ever made my husband feel like he cannot grieve with me over this. Never made him feel less than because of his pain. I turned around and slapped him in the face. I never condone violence, and I'm very upset I would ever do that to another human, but I just couldn't deal with this. He took a step back and then threw all of my makeup on the floor, which I get, but then he started breaking all of my decor in my bathroom. I yelled at him to stop and that I was sorry, but he just kept going, even going as far as punching a hole in my bathroom wall. It was like I was seeing all of these bottled up emotions from our children's death come out. But it went too far when it tried to grab me, yelling in my face. I kicked him off and told him to get the heck out. He walked out of the bathroom, and I watched him break a few more items as he left. The second he left, I had a panic attack, looking at the mess he made, to even just seeing how much he hid his pain. I called my mother and told her everything that has been happening. I don't talk to my family much due to some past trauma with them. She told me she was on her way. The second she got here, I just broke down and she held me. Then she stood up and started taking pictures of everything he broke. I asked her what she was doing, and she turned to me and said, "We're suing this POS." I honestly didn't even argue. I was so hurt by everything my husband did to me. My mom packed up my computer and I grabbed a few outfits. My mom and I drove to a hotel, and she insisted on staying with me. While I finished up work, my mom called the locksmith and my attorney. I will be divorcing him as well. So there it is. Here's the update everyone has been waiting for. I feel guilty for just giving up on my husband in 8 years of our marriage. But it's time for a divorce. I can't live like this, and neither can my husband. I wish I could say we moved on, forgave each other, and I got to see my sister-in-law have her baby. But that's not reality. If anything else happens, I will let you all know. Thank you guys for the support and help with this situation. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my husband's family see my child after they demanded paternity tests? I just gave birth to my baby, and I have refused that my husband's family see her. At my work, I'm very close to my colleague who is a married man. We have been friends for a while. Another colleague of ours was in love with him or something, but he's married. So she didn't like the rejection. She made some accusations about him to see what would stick. One of them was that I was having an affair with him. It became very big. I was pregnant at a time, and my husband never really believed the rumors because we love each other. His family, however, doesn't love me. They demanded testing my baby, and I refused. But my husband sided with them at a time because he is conflict avoidant. Now they want to play family, which I refuse. They're not a part of my family. They never liked me. They couldn't even hold their excitement about the rumors, even if it meant the heartbreak of their beloved son and the dissolution of his marriage. They are calling me a-hole and say they have rights to my baby. Edit: a test was taken while I was pregnant. Mother-in-law insisted that she didn't even wait for the bastard to be born. My colleague was cleared when the accusations became very serious and police got involved. And the idiot female colleague was dumb enough to have texted with her best friend about her plans. She no longer works with us. Nobody ever apologized to me. Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. Tell mother-in-law you fully expect a paternity test on your husband. Oh gosh, lol. Thank you. I needed this laugh. Yes, cheaters are the first to accuse. You need a test before the in-laws can be considered family. But really, why would they hear any gossip about your workplace? Pretty sure they heard from a husband. Would make me question if he truly did believe it on some level to side with his parents and use the excuse he just wants to avoid conflict. So take the test. So my mom had the exact situation when she was pregnant with me. My dad was military and was shipped out. After he left, my mom found out she was pregnant with me. My grandmother was convinced I was a child of an affair and had all these demands. My dad didn't believe it, but humored his mother because he also is conflict avoidant when it came to his mom. My grandfather, weirdly enough, didn't care. Surprise, surprise, I'm my father's son. But my grandmother was an absolute prick to me all growing up. Whenever no one was looking, she made sure to try and convince me I'm a bastard and terrible, like my mother, etc. When I got married, she wore white to my wedding to cause drama even. She genuinely hated me my whole life because I embarrassed her, because she told everyone my mom had an affair, and it turned out to not be true. Not the a-hole, and I wouldn't trust them to treat your baby well when people aren't watching. I feel bad for your grandma. She's delusional. She thought she would overshadow your beautiful bride by wearing white? What was she expecting? To make people confused about who's the bride? I wished I was invited to your wedding. I would have asked her, "Wow, Granny, I didn't know you were still a virgin." You are very kind to invite that miserable old crone to your wedding. Honestly, the moment she showed up in white, would have had security quietly escort her out. People like that don't change. And the fact she treated you bad over her mistake? Nope. Cut them out. I hope you're doing better. Not the a-hole. My son's father's aunt decided to make comments when my son was 1 that was I sure about his paternity, because he didn't look anything like that side of the family. Guess who hadn't seen my son for 13 years now? People are so stupid. My 2 youngest sons don't even look like siblings. The older one is the spitting image of his dad. In fact, without his dad next to him, it looks like we adopted him. The younger looks like my family. Standing next to his dad and brother, you would think he was adopted. Kids don't always have visible traits from both sides, especially at 1-year-old for Pete's sake.